Tayo'y narito sa panghuling bahagi ng ating virtual Advent Recollection ng ating kooperatiba, MAGSIGE MPC, bilang bahagi ng ating paghahanda sa kanyang nalalapit na pagbabalik. Ang ating reflection ngayon ay nakatuon sa temang I am a blessing. Marami ang nagbago sa ating buhay sa panahon ng pandemya ito. Nahihirapan tayo sa ating sariling mga paraan upang mapagtanto ang mga pagbabago ito. Ngunit sa pamamagitan ng ating pananampalataya na ipinagkaloob ng ating dakilang tagapaglikha, tayo ay magagalak sa Kanya at hahanapin ang Kanyang kapayapaan sa gitna ng mga walang at siguraduhan sitwasyon. Iaangat niya tayo sa mga hamon ng panahon ito upang maging ilaw na nais niyang maging tayo. Bilang tugon sa Kanyang pagmamahal, susundin natin ang Kanyang tawag na maglingkod at ang pag-ibig ang maging labaw sa gitna ng mga pagsubok ng panahon ito at naway maging papapala sa iba. Brothers and sisters, our reflection master for today, Monsignor Paul A. CUISON.
Who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name, would care to feel my hurt? Who am I that the bright and morning star would choose to light the way for my ever-wandering heart? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow. A wave tossed in the ocean, vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you told me who I am. I am yours. I am yours. Who am I that the eyes that see my sin would look on me with love and watch me rise again? Who am I that the voice that calmed the sea would call out through the rain and calm the storm in me? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow. A wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling. But because of what you've done, not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a fly
Good morning, brothers and sisters, and welcome to this annual virtual Advent Recollection with the theme, I choose to live, for I am thankful, and I am a blessing. The first thing that came to my mind when I reflected on the theme is the question, who am I? And for this reason, I decided to begin this conference with the song of the Casting Crowns, a religious band based in the US, with the title of the song asking that same question, who am I? Who am I? Sino ako? Kinsa man ko? You may answer this question just by saying your name or by presenting your ID. But that doesn't really mean that you know me just because you know my name or just because you've seen my ID. People address us with so many nicknames, especially among our co-workers, office mates, classmates, and you would be surprised with the nicknames that they give you aside from your common name, your baptismal name. But that too is not enough to identify who you are. We can tell people just anything about ourselves, the way you want them to know you. But that doesn't really mean that you have revealed yourself, the inner you, who you really are. And I think I mentioned the magic words, the inner you, who you really are. Because that deeper reality of who you are, that inner you, which is in fact the real answer to this question, lies beneath the peripheries, lies beneath what people would know you, the formalities and the externals that people would come to know you. I would say also that this inner you is the very ground, the very reason why we can relate to the theme given to us this morning. I am thankful that I am a blessing, and for this reason, I choose to live. Not I chose to live, which is in the past tense, or I will choose to live, which is in the future tense, but I choose to live, knowing who I am as a blessing makes me grateful, and thus I choose to live in the present. Let me go over now over some verses of this beautiful song, just to start digging deeper into the reality of who we are. First, the opening verse of the song, which expresses that sense of wonder and amazement to God, our Creator. It says, who am I? It says, who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name, would care to feel my hurt? Who am I that the bright and morning star would choose to light the way for my ever-wandering heart? As I've said, this verse is expressing that sense of wonder and amazement to God who is the Creator. All perfections can be ascribed to the name of God. He is all-powerful. He is almighty. He is infinite. He is perfect. And nothing can compare to His greatness. But this God who cares about me, this God who is perfect would care to feel my hurts and my pains. Kinsa man ko? Who am I? This insignificant being among the billions of human beings on this planet. This line of questioning reminds me also of Psalm number 8. And this psalm echoes even a more profound sense of wonder and amazement to God, our Creator. It says, when I look at the heavens, the moon and the stars which you arrange, what is man that you should keep him in mind? Man that you should care for him. But you made him little less than the angels. With honor and glory you crowned him, made him ruler over the works of your hand, and put everything under his feet. Every time we examine the question, who is man? If our examination is honest and sincere, this will always end up with the affirmation of the greatness and power of God, the Creator. God who created me, who has molded me like the clay in a potter's hand, that beautiful image in the Old Testament. And as we are amazed with the greatness and power of God, we are also being humbled with the realization of our nothingness. Man is just dust. The story of creation in the book of Genesis will help us recall that it was only the breath of God that has given us life. Ruach in Hebrew. Take that breath, take that ruach, and man returned to clay. And man's plans go back to nothing. Let us go back to the lyrics of the song and see the initial realization of the author of who he is, coming from his existential human experience. And the third verse tells us this: I am a flower. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Again, another verse from the Psalms comes to mind. Psalm number 144, verses 3 and 4. And it asks, Lord, What are human beings that you care for them? Mere mortals that you think of them. They are like a breath. Their days are like a fleeting shadow. I believe that there is no other time in our life's journey than during this pandemic year, during this pandemic time, when we are all powerfully reminded of the brevity of human existence. It says, 80 years of those who are strong. Just yesterday, I visited a friend. I attended the reception of the baptism of her eldest daughter. The story was that both her mother and herself were diagnosed as COVID positive. Both of them were sent to SPMC. In just a couple of days or so, the mother developed pneumonia. So she was brought to the ICU, and the pneumonia was getting stronger, and ultimately it got her. No goodbye, no? Just like that. I think that the world has known a lot of stories like this during this time of the pandemic. Life is short, and death is inevitable. But we always say, from the perspective of faith, death does not have the last say. In fact, during this Advent season, through the apocalyptic writings, we are all being reminded that life here on earth is just temporal. And if we are being told about the scary pictures in the prophecies of the Revelation, this is not told to scare us, but just to help us get connected to eternity, our real destiny. Death does not have the final word. Jesus has. And that our real life with Jesus is eternal. And this brings me now to the song's simple and yet deeply profound answer to the question, who I am. In just 3 words, I am yours. It's not because of who I am, not because of what you've done. It's not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. And for this reason, you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling. And you've told me who I am. I am yours. The answer to the question, who am I? And the song tells us, I am yours. Let us now depart from the lyrics of the song and let us go over some passages in the Bible that tell us the giftedness of being human in greater detail. The theme gives us the key words to understand who we are. A blessing, and that we must be thankful for being a blessing. Of course, we know that not too many people have realized that they are a blessing, which explains their lack of confidence and their poor self-esteem. But what makes us a blessing? What makes me a blessing? And the answer is the very fact that God has beautifully created us and has given us the gift of life. This life which is so unique, so special. No human being is the same. Bisan ang kambal, identical twins, they may look the same, but truly they are different from each other. We are all special, precious, and great in the eyes of God. let me consider or present to you three scriptural passages that answer the question of who we are. The first is from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27, which presents to us the image of man, created in the image and likeness of God. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. You know. You know the story of creation, no? How for 5 days God created the heavens and the earth, the moon and the stars, the birds in the sky, the vegetation on the earth, the fish in the water, etc. No? And each and every creation, there is that detail in the book of Genesis that says, and he called them good. On the sixth day, God crowned the work of his creation by creating man. And after creating man, the description of Genesis is this, and he called them very good. Not just good, but very good. So that on the seventh day, God rested. Only then that he rested. And it doesn't mean that God did not work anymore, no? Because he rested. Just like we want to do, and when we work hard and we want to rest, it means really doing nothing. But this is not the idea. St. John Paul II in his encyclical letter, Dies Domini, would tell us, no, the real meaning of God resting is God took time to contemplate the beautiful work of his creation, especially on the seventh day after he created man, which he called very good. He was contemplating the beautiful work of his creation, especially man, created in his image and likeness, imago Dei. The second scriptural passage that I'd like to mention is from the letter of St. Paul to the Galatians, chapter 4, beginning from verse 4 to 7, which describe man as children of God. It says, "But when the right time finally came, God sent his own Son. He came as the son of a human mother and lived under the Jewish law, so that we might become God's children. To show that you are his children, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, the Spirit who cries out, 'Father, my Father.' So then you are no longer a slave but a child. And since you are his child, God will give you all that he has for his children." So you see, if the Old Testament tells us of this very deep theological meaning of man, imago Dei, created in the image and likeness of God, in the New Testament, as revealed to us in Jesus Christ our Lord, we are not just Imago Dei. We are children of God. And this is probably the most important message of Jesus Christ to us, that we are God's children. And I would even say this much, the heart of the Christmas message is our divine filiation. When God became man, He also intended to reveal to us who we really are, that we are God's children. And the last scriptural passage I'd like to mention here, from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 to 20, as it expresses the value of a single person. The story of this passage is about the healing of a person who was possessed by demons, by several demons. They call themselves Legion. And you know, how the story goes. How they pleaded to be thrown into the herd of swine, which the Lord acceded. And finally, we see the destruction of the herd of swine just to free one single individual, one single person. And it tells us this important message that we are precious. Even the wealth of all the world is incomparable to the preciousness of one single individual. In the eyes of God, we are more than any other wealth, all the wealth of the world combined. The Lord was willing to sacrifice the so-called material possession, this represented by the herd of swine, to save one man, to emphasize the value of one single person. Why? Because that single man is Imago Dei. That single man is a child of God. The answer to the question, who I am, tells us that we are God's greatest blessing, that we are a person, not just a being created in the image and likeness of God, but a child of God. And for that reason, man is great, man is precious, man is important in the eyes of God. Let me consider now some practical things, some implications of this fundamental revelation of who we are that we can draw from the scripture. You see, the great tragedy in life is that man has lost this perspective of looking at himself. We don't really realize the blessing of our personhood. The reasons are so many, but let me just mention a few of them here. Number one, people do not treat us for who we are, but for what we have. That is just what reality will tell us. And for this reason, we are also tempted to think of ourselves not for who we are, but for what we have. Sa may akong value, not really for who I am, but I am tempted to identify my value with the things that I have. Reality check. What do you feel when your office mate or your co-teacher buys a new car, no? Bagong sakyanan. Tapos natural kaya ang reaction, maibog yun da. No? Especially if you have a car and you look at your car, o ang imong sakyanan kagang-kagang, no? Labaw pag yun nga maibog. But what difference does it make if you don't have a car? If you just take the taxi, the jeepney, or the tricycle, or kadilakad, no? How do you feel about yourself? We just have to deal with it, no? Because people tend to put our value or worth on what we have. Mamalit yun tag mga mahalong gamit, no? Gwapong sinina, haron magwapo ang atong pagbati, no? Magsuot ang mga signature, no? Para mas madugangan ang atong face value. But my practical point is this: you are still who you are, even in your bare self. Second, we put a very high standard for ourselves. Very high standard. Why? To get the affirmations from others. In so doing, we place our happiness into the hands of other people. We identify ourselves with our titles, honor, capacity, success. Reality check. Sabi ninyo, mga bata, no? Since we were kids, we were always told to be successful, to be perfect, to be the first in everything, to be the first honor. No? So we developed the attitude of always aiming high. If we are down, we also lose our self-esteem. But you ask ourselves, are we our achievements? Are we our honors, powers, and titles? Huna-huna ang tarong. When death comes, you can't bring them at all, anything at all with you. And related to this point, this ever great tendency of comparing ourselves to others. No? Dili ta kakita sa atong giftedness. Dili ta kakita sa atong pagka-blessing. Kay magsige man ta og tan-aw sa giftedness sa uban. No? Di ko kalimot sa sharing sa akong classmate ani in theology. He was telling us in class one time, was so honest, no, and sincere. He told us, no, maibog ko sa inyo ha. Kaya dagang kaayong mga talent sa klase. May mo kanta, may mo orate, may mga bright, may composer, this and that. And when I look at myself, I don't have any talent to compete with you, he said. No? Pero one day he realized, because he's such a good friend, a friend of everybody. Siya nga, mo po dahil niya gastang gihatag sa Ginoo sa kuha. I may not have all those things that the world recognize as talent, but he is very friendly. No? Ang problema mag-usahay with us is we tend to look at what others have, and for that reason, we fail to recognize what God has given us. Third practical point. Our broken relationships our woundedness and our traumas in life. We tend to look back and identify our worth with our past experience. Now, I know a lot of stories along this line of how, like, their partners, husband or wife, mistreated them so badly, before sila nagbuwag, sige siya gingnan, pangit ka, pangit ka, hangtod na lang after some time, mutuo na lang po siya nga pangit siya, Kau daw balik-balik kag sulti og pangit ka, tanga ka, kadugayan, mutuo na lang pug ka sa kapangit sa iyang gisulti, No wonder you also start to shy away from relationship, believing that you are not worth a penny. Broken relationships sometimes, woundedness, traumas in life. You have to go back and examine those things because sometimes they are the cause, the reason why we don't see ourselves as we are. The consequence of all this and the summary of all these practical points. We wear our mask. We hide our true identity. We hide it from others. We're afraid that they would know us for who we are. And so we pretend to be who we are not. We are not living our authentic selves. Like Adam and Eve, after the fall, they hid themselves from God and from people. Di sila gusto makitaan, because they feel ashamed of what they have done. Today, dear brothers and sisters, with our team, we said, we choose to live. We live grateful of the life that God has given to us, which is the real blessing. The theme chosen for this Advent Recollection challenges us to choose to live. And as I've said, it's not in the past tense, not in the future tense, but in the present, in the here and now, that we choose to live. And concretely, it means that we have to let go of our masks and just be our authentic self. We have to, first and foremost, struggle to recapture our sense of being as persons. So remember what we've been talking about, God creating us in His image and likeness, and that we are in fact children of God. The way the Lord looks at us as precious, as great, as important, we have to recapture that sense of being, the way the Lord looks at us. Secondly, confront yourself and examine your sense of security. Our sense of security as persons. Unsa may nakahatag nimog self-esteem. And as I've said, not with the things we have, but by the fact that God has created us that we should be loving ourselves the way God loves us. No ifs, no buts. Gigugma ka sa Ginoo dili tungod kay gwapo ka o di ba kay bright ka, di kay buutan ka. Bisan sa imong pagkabulingon, bisan sa imong pagkapangit, gigugma ka sa Ginoo. No ifs and no buts. So that our sense of security is in the fact that we are children of God. Third, listen to your feelings and emotions. No? First, just listen and do not make any judgment at all. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is it about myself, my needs, my experience that encourages me to feel this way? Is this feeling the same as the way God feels for you? And the point I'd like to bring in here is not to allow yourself to be manipulated by how others look at you. Sometimes they are just in our minds. No? Importante kay para sa tua ang the way our significant others would want us to be. No? Pero mga tigulang na ta, siguro dili na ta magpermanente maghunahuna kung unsay ilang gusto nga atong kinabuhi. No? We should just be contented with who we are. Do not allow yourself to be manipulated by how others look at you. Be content with the fact that God looks at you with so much love. Fourth, identity. Identify your mask. How do you want to be known by others? But does God look at you in that same way? Is this how God know me? No? So, let go of the masks. And it also means let God. Be grateful of what you have. And as I've already said, stop looking at what others have. Just be happy with what you have and with who you are. I'd like to end this short reflection with a sharing of my personal experience way back when I was a newly ordained priest. No? Siguro it was the second year of my priesthood. Right now I'm already 28 years in the ministry. Way back when I was just a 2-year-old priest. And you can understand that people would want to invite me, because I'm young and I was always saying yes. I could reach as far as Mati, Tagum, or Digos just to give recollections, just to give talks. And I was happy doing things without me realizing that I was already getting tired. And one time I noticed that I was truly exhausted. And when I went to my spiritual director, immediately identified that I was in fact burned out, very young in my ministry. And so he told me, you go to the beach resort of the PME fathers, because my spiritual director was a PME priest. And just go there, do not bring anything, do not bring your book, just go there and rest. Don't be tempted to do anything. Prepare your lessons, because I was teaching also in the seminary, or prepare talks. No, not at all. Just be there doing nothing. So, niadto ko sa lugar, it's close to Mer Grande. There's a beach resort of the PMA, and I was just doing nothing. I was tempted to read the book that I saw in the place, but I stopped myself, just doing nothing. Nakatulog, no, naniudto, no. And in the afternoon, after I took a brief siesta, I was going around the shore, no, just wanting to hear what God would want to tell me, no. Kanya, samtang naglakaw-lakaw ko, kita ko niining mga wild daisies, no, in the aisle, no, and the field was actually filled up, no, with wild daisies, no. They bloom in the morning and they wither in the evening. Samtang nagtanaw ko niining nindot nga mga bulak, kaingon ko sa akong kaugalingon nga kining mga bulak ako ra gyud makitaan, ba, no? Murag gibutang ra gyud ni sa Ginoo diri para sa kuha, because truly pagkahapon wa na may laing makakita kung may tao maadto didto, no? Then I continued on, no? I was still wanting to hear what the Lord would like to tell me. Balik-balik ang tingog sa balud sa dagat, the ebb and flow of the waves, no? And it's repeating and repeating, no? There's no other sound, no, but the sound of the waves, no? Kadugayan ako og paminaw sa tingog sa balud, no? I realized that God has a message there too, no? Pero balik-balik nga sulti sa Ginoo, I love you for who you are, not for what you do, not for what you can accomplish, not because of your success, but just because you're a son of mine. You are mine, no? Usahay mabungog tani ini di ta kasabot ani nga mensahe sa Ginoo, because we are so filled up with the noise in the world, and because of that we are drowned and we don't even hear what God is talking to us very simply, no? Naminaw ko sa mga tingog sa langgam sa lugar, because it's a shaded area and birds would come, no? Tapos kanindot man rin tingog sa mga langgam, no? And you don't hear them out, no, in the normal, ordinary day-to-day, because you're so busy with doing what you consider as important, no? Kanindot man dahil sa music, sa nature, and just doing nothing, just being my bare self. I feel so relaxed. I felt that God was refreshing me, no? And it was enough to just say, I am yours, no? Just before going home that day, I saw this beautiful sunset, no? And the colors, you cannot imagine how beautiful it is, no? It was that I could not forget. It's just grabbed in my memory, that feeling that I have right now, and I kept it inside of me even right now, no? Because it's like the Lord telling me, He capped everything, He crowned everything, all the revelations that He had that day with that beautiful sunset, no? See how beautiful creation is, and God has given that to you. God has given that to me to affirm my value, to affirm who I am as a blessing. Just that we should be thankful, and because of that we should choose to live. And it was enough. It was enough that when I went home, to start again, no? And always realizing my worth, my value as a person is not in the external, is not in the titles, no? It's not in what others would tell me, no, of who I am, but in what I received from God, in the affirmation of who I am before the Lord.
May we request everyone for a moment of silence for our reflection. Tayo'y natapos na sa panghuling bahagi ng ating virtual Advent Recollection. Maraming salamat sa inyong pagsubaybay at naway sa ating paghalis ngayon, ating alalahanin ang mga sakripisyo na ginawa ng Diyos nang isugo niya ang kanyang anak na mamatay sa krus para sa atin. Dahil sa sakripisyong ito, tayo ay pinagpala. Kaibigan, hinihikayat kita na pagnilayan ng epekto ng ginawa ng Diyos sa iyong buhay. Pagkatapos, ginagarantiyahan kita, makikita mo na ikaw ay tunay na pinagpala at hinihimo kita na ibahagi ang mensahe upang ikaw ay maging isang pagpapala sa iba.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons why my heart's to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, that end is near and my time has come, still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship Your holy